Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 1400 hours, 10 minutes, 5/18/2020. And what the F is going on with the United States? So over the weekend, apparently a bunch of people said, F the stay-at-home orders. We're going to the beaches, we're going to the bars. About time, ladies and gentlemen. Stood up for what's yours. Because those employees that were telling you not to go anywhere are exactly that, employees. They are your employees. Shout out to Icons, because he calls it like he sees it. That gentleman, I would love to meet him. I would love to have a conference with him, because I think I could learn a lot from that gentleman, and he could hear what the younger opinions are. Saw a story today that actually Tim Pool brought up, and you know, he's right. This girl in New York is going to get unseated real soon. It's just she's showing how dumb she is, and people are starting to wake up. But that's neither here nor there. I saw a clip of Alan Dershowitz, who I had respect for, and then I found out he defended Jeffrey Epstein in Florida, and I kind of lost some of my respect for him. But then he was being interviewed by a secondary style news source, where he told everybody that was watching that show, I don't have a right to refuse a vaccine. I don't have a right. They can bring me there and stab it in my arm. You're not giving me no vaccines. Take it yourself. If your vaccines are so good, and you believe in them, and this goes for all these folks out there, that vaccines are great, they're great, they're great. Okay, then you take it. I'll take my chances. Because if you've got the vaccine and it works perfectly like you say it does, then why the fuck should I have to take it? Sorry. Not sorry. I commented on a video that I saw yesterday. RFB, that guy's awesome. I don't know if he's ex-military or not, but he seems very intelligent. And I said to him, you know, I know that you don't trust any politician. I said, but it seems like this man brings out the dark ones to himself, and then, you know, they end up hanging themselves. I mean, you had Bolton, who ended up stepping down, being fired. Acting Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was removed. You know, and I said, you know, give him the benefit of the doubt. And somebody commented back how, well, if that's the case, then why hasn't he arrested, you know, Clinton and Obama yet? And I think the honest answer there is, you can't go into this half-cocked, ladies and gentlemen. You can't. The reason their case fell apart against Flynn was, one, it was completely fabricated, but two, they thought that people were stupid. One thing I have to give Bill Barr, I don't trust him. I don't trust the AG. But there's some things he said back in June of 2019 in an interview, how he was speaking to the reporter that, you know, his life at this point, he's 70 years old. His life's over. Listen, he didn't jump into this with both feet, expecting to come out unscathed. Now, mind you, these are my opinions. But the facts are that Bill Barr's family owned the school that the non-certified English teacher Jeffrey Epstein taught at. He also worked for both Bush administrations. So he's a swamp creature. He's a swamp creature that Trump said, I know what you did. You're going to do this, or you're effed. I might be able to get you out of it at the end of it. Well, I got news for you. If it comes to losing my reputation and my family losing their status, or me working for somebody who the rest of the country, well, most of the country hates, I'm going to choose that person to work for. Apparently, New York State, the taxation department, has issued a warrant against the business that AOC used to own or operate or something, a failed business. Here's an idea, ladies and gentlemen. When you're going to vote, and this goes for the morons in New Jersey, for those folks who, and I quote, when I asked them, oh, did you vote in the gubernatorial election? And one of these people, will remain nameless, probably can't even find this video, looked at me and went, I voted for the weed guy. Well, that seems like it's, an intelligent thing to do. Did you do any research on him? No. Well, why would you vote? Why would you hire somebody without doing research on them? Well, don't hire them. They get elected. They work for us. Anyway, that is the intelligence level in the state of New Jersey right now. And then there's folks like me who have a tendency to see things for what they are. If all you're concerned about is weed, if that's the only thing you're concerned about in this world, is a depressant, something that's going to lock you down and lock you away from actually reaching your potential, you are, I don't even know how to describe you. I remember years ago, before I started to smoke weed, how energetic and how filled with fire I was. And that drug killed it. You see, people woke up to the fluoride. A lot of people, whether they agree with you in public or not, if you go to their homes. Next time you go into your friend's house who you bring up stuff like this to, and they say, oh yeah, there's a conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. Look at their shower head in their shower next time you use their bathroom. And if it doesn't look like a normal shower head, odds are it's a an anti-fluoride filter. There's a group of minerals and carbon in there that absorbs the fluoride from the water. 18 seconds. That's what it takes, anything that lands on your skin, to get into your bloodstream. 18 seconds. Some of the folks that busted up that fentanyl delivery that came in from China, some of the officers died within 30 seconds because it got on their skin, and as soon as it got in their blood, it stopped their heart. Ladies and gentlemen, when the governor of New Jersey, when he says that we can't worship, but you can go buy weed and alcohol, why do you think he's doing that? Now let's be honest here, and please leave comments. The question is, why do you think he did that? I know the answer. A population that is, under the influence is much easier to control than a population that's awake. When you dumb down your population, and I know plenty of dumbed down people. I know plenty of them. One of them was a former friend of mine. He is dumbed down because his answer to drugs was, it's just weed, man. No, it's not. When you are inherently stupid to begin with, and by the way, you know who I'm talking about? Dude, I do not think you are stupid. I don't think you're stupid. I don't think that at all. I know you're stupid. That's a fact. If I was to give you an IQ test, you would probably score a 60. That's barely non-mentally retarded. And you're smoking weed every day. Sorry. Certain people just shouldn't smoke weed because they're inherently dumb. Now, Einstein, 160 IQ, probably could have got away with smoking weed. Oppenheimer, another extremely intelligent person. No fluoride, no vaccines, and became very smart. Y'all are just clueless. When you sit in your little homes, or in some respects of the word, your father's homes, you've never earned a thing in your life, never struggled, except with your own struggles, which you brought on yourself. And you know who I'm talking about. The folks that chose hard drugs and their egos over reality, you're going to be the first to get culled. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Because you're going to be the first ones that say, I'm going to take the vaccine. And then you're going to have an adverse reaction to it. You're going to end up being a vegetable in a fucking hospital bed. In a state hospital somewhere. Living off my tax dollars. And that's the other thing I don't understand about people. They don't get it. I've told them repeatedly how certain groups, certain political affiliations with certain parties in 2009 started to get targeted by the IRS. I was one of those people. Now, I've had friends say, I've looked it up and I didn't see anything about it. Well, of course you didn't, because you looked it up on Google. And Google's owned by Alphabet. And 90% of the people that work at Google are going to do anything they can to protect the DNC. So, what happened? Well, for 10 years plus, I didn't receive my tax returns. I did my taxes. Did them every year. Did them in 17, didn't receive a thing back. Did them in 16, didn't receive a thing back. Did them in 15, didn't receive a thing back. Did them in 14, didn't receive a thing back. Did them in 13, didn't receive a thing back. Did them in 12, did them in 11, did them in 2010. Didn't receive a thing back. They kept claiming I owed money, and they couldn't give me a reason what I owed money for. Well, that would be like you taking your car to a shop, and he hands you a bill for $1,200, and there's nothing on that bill. Yeah, the car's fixed. Well, what did you do? I need to know what I'm paying for. What was broken? What'd you change? What did you do? Tell me what the fuck you did. Nope. IRS doesn't have to do that. Because, you see, they're not elected officials. They're bureaucracy. They're appointed by elected officials. And those elected officials do not have your best interest in mind. I have a neighbor constantly says, he can't do that. He can't. I said, how many times do I have to tell you? He doesn't work for you. He doesn't work for you. The election in New Jersey and New York was bought and paid for 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Don't give me this nonsense. Any of you that are old enough to remember 9/11, any of you that were old enough to be adults during 9/11, will remember Christine Todd Whitman saying how the air quality is fine, we can go back to work in the city. Meanwhile, thousands of people to this day are still dying from what they call the 9/11 disease. Ladies and gentlemen, they're not dying from lung cancer. They're dying from thyroid cancer. There's only one real thing on this planet that gives you thyroid cancer, and that's iodine-111. Y'all can do your own research on that. There's a picture floating around online, and now that Google has had some of its restrictions lifted, forced to be lifted, I'm going to find that picture. It's at the bottom of the base of Tower 1, underneath where elevator 50, the only elevator that went to the very top. It was an express elevator, went from the bottom to the top. There was a perfect round circle, a perfect circle at the bottom of melted concrete. Slight concave. There's only one thing I know that can melt concrete. Only one thing I know that can melt concrete. You know what it is. So we've got the Democratic Party's in shambles, right? You've got creepy Uncle Joe. He's running. We don't know where he's running. He doesn't know where he's running to. He's not even sure where he is at this point. And I feel so bad for the man. I think it's time the folks who are pushing this man out there need to be held accountable for elder abuse. At least that's what I think. I believe that would be elder abuse. And then we've got this mess now. I understand that we find out that the Pensacola shooter, which, by the way, most people who are awake, who see fact instead of using their feelings, knew that this man was connected to a group of folks that were untoward in the Arabian Peninsula, whatever. We knew this. The FBI, during the shooting at the Pulse nightclub in Florida, tried to hide the fact that shooter's father not only was an imam, but he was an informant for the FBI. And that imam told that shooter, his own son, if you feel this way, and you happen to be gay, because he was gay, you need to go take all these people out for Allah and whatever. Okay. At least be honest with us. Don't try to hide the enemy. They're not trying to hide themselves. I mean, you've got a district in Missouri, or Minnesota, that has the highest recruiting for the terrorist organizations over in the Middle East. That's sitting right here in the middle of the country, ladies and gentlemen. Minnesota. Minnesota. I mean, that was... What the hell are you doing? Now you've got Ilhan Omar is under investigation for embezzling money. Go figure. You've got, I guess the state of New York, I haven't seen the documents, but I'll look them up, is filing a warrant against Ocasio-Cortez's failed business for like $1,800 in taxes, which have never been paid. This is absurd. So that, you know, there's an old saying, people end up eating their own when things get to the point. And here we are. You're watching the DNC and the rhinos all start eating their own. And it's about time. The folks that go out there and vote party line, they're out there and they'll vote straight D the entire way or straight Republican the entire way. I'm not into that. I'm not into that. If you're a no good piece of garbage, I'm not voting for you. I did not vote for Murphy. I will not vote for Murphy if he goes up for re-election. I have a funny feeling Murphy and his AG are going to shoot themselves in the foot, because they're going to cross the line and the Attorney General of the United States is going to come up and say, guess what? You violated constitutional rights and now you're under investigation. And when that happens, everything that I've been saying since Murphy got elected, since before Murphy was elected, I knew what he was when he was over in Germany. I know mothers that look at him and say, I wouldn't let my kid within 30 feet of that guy. Because he's got that look. I've met police officers in the state of New Jersey, and I've told them that he looks like a pedo. And they're like, I agree. The problem is when all the evidence was with Ambassador Stevens in Benghazi. Why do you think for 12 months the then Secretary of State, HRC, didn't send them the help they needed? Didn't send them the support they needed? Didn't give them the extra security they needed? Why do you think that is? Because he had all the names. That's why they were hoping to get Flynn out of the way, because Flynn knows all about that mess. And if you heard him early campaign for President Trump, you could hear the terror and that ball of tears in the back of his throat, because he wanted to scream it If you knew what was going on, if you knew about the trafficking and the drugs and the amount of people that we let just get slaughtered to cover the crimes. What is going on in this United States is a war against evil. It's not Democrat versus Republican, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, get that whole fucking idea that we are a democracy out of your head. We are a constitutional republic. End of story. That is what it is. That is what is stated in the Declaration of Independence. That is what is stated in the Pledge of Allegiance. We are a democratic we are a republic, a constitutional republic. And the quicker people start to realize that and start realizing true history, we were the only country in the West. We stopped slavery before Canada did. And when you look around, you look at that woman from Minnesota, that atrocity that we call a congresswoman. Her family fled Somalia not for fear of murder from the regime, because her father was part of that murderous regime who murdered over 150,000 people. By the way, Somalia still actively trades slaves to this minute. Whenever you're listening to this video, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, 20 minutes from now, Somalia will still be trading slaves, because that's how they do. It's like that song from Katy Perry. This is how we do. Do to do. This is what they do. You're not going to change that part of the world. But I don't think, by any way, shape, or form, we should be giving these folks asylum here, because that's getting the people there very angry. We gave her father a job as a postal worker. He carries our mail. And yet he was involved in one of the most murderous regimes on the east coast of Africa, as far as we know in written history. They fled to Kenya to avoid being slaughtered by the people of Somalia. Doesn't that make you kind of wonder where their loyalty lies? Anyway, that's my rant for the day. God bless.